here with you on this Friday. So the latest issue involves officers accused of beating a man in a bathroom and then realizing that they perhaps took it too far. Now they're accused of covering it up, and the beating was caught on the body camera, we're told by the chief. Our lead investigator, Scotty Hunter, getting his hands on the warrants for those officers. He's here to walk us through exactly what they reveal. Scotty.
Well, Greg, these warrants spell it out in black and white. Those officers allegedly knew what they did was wrong, and then they went to great lengths to bury what happened. The chief tonight, though, saying we would not have gotten to these arrests without our reporting.
Right now, we have 9 administrative investigations.
The mayor and police chief today saying something has to change as 4 Baton Rouge police officers, including one of the chief's handpicked leaders within the department, are all facing charges tied to the now suspended street crimes unit.
Let's be crystal clear. There is no room for misconduct or unethical behavior in our department. No one is above the law.
This is not a time for just an annual checkup. This is time for a full body MRI to diagnose and reveal any dysfunctions or wrongdoings. I owe that to the officers of the Baton Rouge Police Department, and I owe it to every citizen in Baton Rouge.
These warrants spelling out the cover-up allegedly carried out by 4 officers, Deputy Chief Troy Lawrence Sr., Jesse Barcelona, Todd Thomas, and Doug Schutz. It comes exactly 1 month to the day after the WAFBI team blew the lid off the so-called Brave Cave, a secretive warehouse where some officers allegedly beat and illegally strip-searched people in their custody. The chief now saying our reporting was key to this alleged corruption coming to light.
These charges are not directly related to the Brave Cave, but can you speak to our reporting and the multiple investigations that have been launched? Was that encouragement for that whistleblower to come forward?
So I think in some of these cases, because people hear that there's an active investigation, we are seeing others are coming forward. And I don't know if they would have come forward if your story had not broken first. So I think that has given some in the community some courage to come forward.
Turn your camera on.
Jeremy Lee was allegedly beaten so badly inside the Brave Cave in January that he had to be sent to the hospital before being booked into Parish Prison.
Jeremy Lee.
Okay. My Adderall and my Xanax.
All right,
You
can't
mix
them, baby. You cannot mix them.
This 52-year-old grandmother also alleges she went to the Brave Cave in June, where she claimed she was stripped naked and had to face a body cavity search by a female officer.
That's my bottle, though. See.
But the thing is this: you saying it's Adderall, but you got Adderall and Xanax. We don't know if it's something you bought out the streets.
Oh no, but I can show proof though.
You can't.
These allegations are concerning for me.
Over the next 30 days, our reporting set off an avalanche of fallout. The mayor shut down the Brave Cave for good, and the street crimes unit was busted up. The department launched an administrative and criminal investigation, and the chief went to the FBI, who opened up a federal probe into the agency. One officer, Troy Lawrence Jr., was arrested on a battery charge and resigned before he could be fired. His father, Troy Lawrence Sr., and 3 other officers, Jesse Barcelona, Todd Thomas, and Doug Schutz, now also face charges amid allegations that officers with the street crimes unit beat a man in their custody, then covered it up. According to these warrants cut for the officers, Thomas is accused of hitting the man in their custody, and the encounter was captured on his body camera, which flipped on when one of the officers used a stun gun on the man. Data shows Thomas watched the video, then showed it to Lawrence, who told him to get rid of it. The warrants also show Barcelona saw the video and allegedly wrote a letter saying the body cam was missing. The chief says the cover-up began the moment the officers realized their actions were all caught on the body camera.
We learned that a supervisor believed that the contents on that video were violations of our policy and excessive use of force, and then directed an officer to get rid of the body camera so that the evidence could not be downloaded in the docking station. A plan was then made to cover up the incident and get rid of the body camera.
While the chief would not go into specifics, citing the ongoing investigation, a source tells the WAFBI team in order to get rid of the damning body camera video, an officer then drove to the Mississippi River Bridge and tossed the camera into the water. The chief says as they continue to get to the bottom of what happened, they're also looking to make internal changes.
We've already started the review of policies and just to make sure if there's any holes that matters like this don't occur again, while at the same time making sure that we're conducting thorough investigations on every single complaint.
As for this newest case, the chief confirms the victim of the attack came forward in late August after our reporting sparked that series of investigations into the department. He says it was a failure to investigate the first Brave Cave complaint that set all of this in motion.
The failure to investigate that incident when it originally came is under internal review. However, when Scotty ran his story in reference to it, we immediately took action and started a full investigation by our Internal Affairs Division and also a parallel investigation with our Criminal Division.
The department is now investigating 9 different allegations of misconduct within the agency. And going forward, the mayor also calling for a review board made up of community stakeholders to take a deeper look at complaints to make sure alleged corruption like this never happens again.
I am asking our community, my legislative counterparts, and union leaders to join me in embracing this path forward.
All right, so the mayor in the middle of that kind of dropped something about maybe a citizens review board. Do we know anything more about that?
Yeah, Greg, she didn't really dive into specifics. Right now, it kind of seems like a pitch, but it seems like she's also just looking for some, feedback from the community, maybe some ideas of how to pull that all together.
That's always a
Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on do our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace. What's up, family? Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another exciting edition of Random Topic Sundays here on channel gboot2786. Gavin Richard, our Facebook page, as well as Periscope on X, formerly Twitter, whoever you are, wherever you are. I don't know if it's formerly, because you can still type it in and you still get it. But whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're blessed and doing safe, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting edition tonight. Hope you are enjoying yourself. I need you all, before we get in, first off, smash up the likes, smash up the likes, smash up the likes. Share, and share alike. And subscribe if you have not, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuning into the hottest live stream here on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you also are hitting that notification bell. So when we go live, you'll know that we're at live, and I'm coming at you with 5. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get this party started. Hope everybody's doing safe. I notice a lot of people, especially where I'm at tonight, the kids are going to be out of school because tomorrow is Columbus Day, aka Indigenous Peoples Day, where we will have several people off. The schools, campuses, mainly the kids are off from school. Something I never even had when I was in school on Columbus Day. I never had that, but of course, the federal buildings and stuff are closed because that's a federal holiday. So that doesn't surprise me. That's closing down. But we're going to be talking tonight, ladies and gentlemen, about what happened with the Baton Rouge Police Department and their brave unit. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And special shout out to our sister Nicole from Nicole's View. I see that this weekend she's celebrating her 18th anniversary, her and her husband. So congrats to them. Haven't seen her in a while, but I think Nicole is going to be coming back pretty soon, hopefully. Shout out to Danielle. I see that you're there. You're tuning in. How you doing, gorgeous? Good to see you. And who else do we have here tonight? We got 5 people. I know we got more than that are here with us. Guys, excuse me. Forgive me if I'm not coming on screen tonight. I'm not feeling that great. And I just think it would be better. I'm more relaxed right now that I would come on here and talk to you all right now through the avatar, which is good as long as we get the show out. So welcome everyone again. So forgive me for that. But right now I'm going to show you all what we were talking about. This is what's going on in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is like a second home to me. When I was coming up, well, not when I was coming up, but when I was about, I want to say 19 years old, after Hurricane Katrina, my family and I, we relocated to Baton Rouge. Not that we had a choice, because everything in New Orleans was underwater, destroyed. We didn't know if we were going to be coming back. And I had a chance to go and finish school there. I went to Southern undergrad. I went to Southern Law Center too. I've set up my business up in Baton Rouge as in the law, after law school, I have a practice there. I had a virtual office. So Baton Rouge is a second home to me. And I have a lot of friends and colleagues and family members that live up there. So in my time while I was in Baton Rouge, especially when I was at law school, I specifically heard and remember them talking about the 70805. And 70805, for those that aren't familiar, in Baton Rouge, is a zip code. And it's an area basically past down Airline Highway, passed around that area, around the areas of such as Goodwood, a little bit between and a little southern. Southern is much further out, but somewhere in between in that area, especially if you're familiar with it, if you're familiar with areas like Gus Young and all of those areas, those are the parts of town that they have, or a high crime, or what the police call a high crime activity area. And so they created this brave unit, which is what we're talking about. I specifically remember hearing about this, but this brave unit, basically, it's a patrol of police officers to track down high crime intensity areas, and especially where they believe there may be drug trafficking. And I remember hearing about this when I was in law school, because my criminal procedure professor, she would have, she would do questions, especially centered on this area, because Southern is right there in Baton Rouge. Southern University Law Center, and 70805 is not that far. And so those that know exactly what I'm talking about, this is a zip code here on Google. This is the area. So it's basically Mid-City North, this area. This is the 70805. No, past Marydale. You see the High Neighbor, Winborn Avenue, Greenwell Springs, that area. I'm all familiar with it. Where it's outlined, you see where it's all outlined in red? Glen Oaks, North Foster. That's the 70805 that they're talking about. And primarily they use, the police have used, I guess you want to say, questionable tactics against residents of this area. And yes, it is predominantly black. Now, I had heard, like I said, I had heard about this unit before. I'm very familiar with it. Um, their tactics and so forth. I haven't had any cases dealing with it, just for the record. And what we learned today, and what you saw, especially in the video, for those that did not see it, essentially is that the police chief, who actually was resigning, Paul Murphy was resigning from the Baton Rouge Police Department. They're actually looking for new applicants. He's the chief of police, and he obviously, because he's at the point where he's was resigning, but also what happened is that a lawsuit had been filed, and you saw in the video, ladies and gentlemen, that I played about a woman who complained about being sexually assaulted and humiliated by the Baton Rouge Police Department. She filed the suit in the Middle District Court of Louisiana in front of a federal judge by the name of Scott Thompson. That's pending now. And I'm gonna give you an update on that too as well. But this is the lawsuit you all can have. I have it here. This was filed by her attorney, Ryan Thompson. By the way, I think this same attorney is representing the other gentleman who was also attacked by the Brave unit, Jeremy Lee. They have filed this lawsuit, and you see this is a 36-page document where she was brought, the woman whose name is Terrell Brown, was brought to a place called the Brave Cave. She alleges that she was sexually humiliated by this unit in this warehouse, where she was forced to illegally subject to strip searches. And it's not just her. And you saw in the video about the mixing of the drugs and so forth, claiming she had Adderall, but she maintained that she had prescription pills that she lawfully possessed. And if you paid attention to the video, she said she could prove it, but the police officer said no. So they still stripped her and searched. And she maintains that she was held in this unit, which is a black site, that she was not hiding any contraband. And they looked in her private areas, including her rectum and vagina. And after 2 hours, they let her go without charge. The officers who forced Mrs. Brown, according to the complaint, to spread open her, and it is graphic, to spread open her private areas, were involved in numerous previous beatings of Baton Rouge civilians, but they were not acting as rogue officers when they sexually humiliated Mrs. Brown. Rather, they were simply carrying out official BRPD policy. 2 years ago, BRPD's policy of strip searching BRPD citizens made national news when video emerged of BRPD's officers strip searching a child. In response to the national outrage, Chief Murphy Paul illegally targeted the lawyer who brought the footage to light. But he did nothing to change BRPD's strip search policy. To this day, BRPD policy instructs officers that they may conduct these invasive strip searches whenever they have reasonable suspicion to frisk a detainee. And such policy directly runs contrary to longstanding U.S. Supreme Court jurisprudence. I like how this attorney is putting it in questions. So he says, why has misconduct complaints about the torture warehouse and the street crimes unit gone ignored for so long? 2 weeks ago, BRPD's Deputy Chief and Chief of Staff Myron Daniels opened a press conference alongside Chief Paul, downplaying the allegations of wrongdoing at the torture warehouse and misleadingly suggesting that he and Chief Paul were unaware of the allegations until August. What Daniels neglected to tell the public was that he and the head of the street crimes unit, Lorenzo Coleman, are business partners. When not working for BRPD and operating a torture warehouse, the two men co-run a consulting agency called Armor Consulting Group, which offers workshops and trainings around the country on police reform. Is it any surprise that the top BRPD brass has consistently exonerated members of street crimes unit accused of wrongdoing? So what this attorney is stating is that Lorenzo Coleman, who is the head of the street crimes unit, and the deputy chief and chief of staff, Myron Daniels, have a business together. Daniels and Lorenzo Coleman. So one hand greases the other. And we prove this. This is the Facebook page of Armor Consulting Group. I just looked in. Now, they don't tell you who is who, and there's no website. I don't know who Lorenzo. I honestly don't know what Lorenzo Coleman or Myron Daniels looks like. But here's their Facebook page. So I have a picture. Okay, so wait, I found it here. We could go to WAFB. And this lawsuit alleges that the BRPD chief applicant has personal connections. This is an applicant for their position. Has ties. He's one of the applicants for chief. So these are people that are applying to be chief of police that have ties to this unit. And I'm going to just show so everybody can look. This is courtesy of WAFB. So they actually have their image here. I was clicking on it. Let's see. Here, and we can go right there. If you go here, we can play this video. Hold on.
The mayor is paying attention to this. I suspect the council's paying attention to this. And I suspect any applicant should be prepared to answer questions on it.
As the Brave Cave scandal continues, the mayor has a very important decision to make, deciding who will lead the department going forward. Thanks for joining us, friends, on this Friday. I'm Elizabeth Val. Greg has the night off. We start with our WAPI team asking a big question tonight. Will the multiple investigation into alleged police misconduct affect the mayor's choice for the city's next top cop? Here's lead investigator Scotty Hunter.
Yes, it's got to.
As two separate investigations into the Brave Cave unfold, both administrative and criminal, and the FBI has officially opened a federal investigation to sort out what happened inside these walls, the mayor has another big item on her plate: hiring a new police chief. Our reporting uncovered the Brave Cave, a secretive warehouse used by some BRPD officers to interrogate people and in some cases allegedly abuse and illegally search them. Current Chief Murphy Paul announced several months ago, before the Brave Cave scandal broke, that he would be stepping down as soon as his replacement is hired. We asked him this week if he would extend his stay until the investigations wrap up, but he said that's not going to happen.
No, my date that I sat down with my family and worked out is still there.
With the clock ticking before the chief makes an exit, legal analyst Franz Borgart calls the mayor's decision for who will lead the agency next, and likely the bulk of this investigation going forward, crucial.
Well, I think, especially now, what's going on has to be a part of the conversation. Anybody who's selecting the next chief has to have a conversation with those individuals about, look, this is what is being said to have happened. How do we stop that? How do we enforce crime? How do we stop crime while simultaneously not violating the state and the federal constitution? That has to be a part of the conversation.
So far, almost 24 candidates have raised their hand for the job and have already taken their civil service test to move forward in the process. After we broke the first reports on the Brave Cave, the BRPD Street Crimes Unit was shut down. The unit often used the Brave Cave to interrogate people. Those officers have now been reassigned. In this lawsuit filed Monday, we've learned one of the chief applicants, Deputy Chief Myron Daniels, has a close business relationship with Lorenzo Coleman, who until recently headed up the Street Crimes Unit.
So there is our proof. Myron Daniels and Lorenzo Coleman do indeed have a working relationship, and we know that Lorenzo Coleman, according to allegations of the lawsuit, was the leader of this Brave unit that is now in trouble and has got the national spotlight's attention.
The pair run a consulting business called Armor Consulting Group, with Daniels listed as the president and Coleman taking on the role of CEO. The lawsuit alleges that Myron Daniels, who was over internal affairs before his promotion in 2020, personally shut down an investigation into Coleman back in 2018.
People with those close personal ties, do you think that that would make them automatically not a good shepherd of the investigation going forward?
I think from a legal standpoint, no, they shouldn't be disqualified based on that.
So here's what I will say to that piece. I think the mayor did a pretty good job when she selected me and went through that process. And I think the mayor will do the same in this process.
Burkhart believes with the level of attention on this case and with the feds now involved, it's unlikely that someone's connection might jeopardize the investigation. But he says the mayor should definitely keep these connections in mind as she makes her choice for the next chief of police.
She has to keep an eye on that. Above anyone else, she has to keep an eye on that. And I think it's going to affect her decision.
Of course, the WABI team has been on top of the investigations in.
So we know that it certainly is gonna raise eyebrows for the Baton Rouge voters. The people in Baton Rouge are watching the mayor. People in Baton Rouge are watching what is going on with this police chief and this lawsuit that has been made. Now, to Paul Murphy's credit, he had fired several officers that were involved in this and had a showdown with the city council. Now, they wanted to strip Baton Rouge Police of funding when he made this, and especially with these allegations. And this is what this is what happened at the press conference after the arrest of the 4 officers. And he fired back at the city council. So I'm going to play this video when Chief Murphy Paul spoke at the city council about a week ago, a little bit over a week, let's just say, and this happened.
Because let's talk about, but I'm going to.
For accountability for accused officers.
I'm sorry, Mayor President, but I'm going to speak my heart on this one. Because let's talk about processes. let me count. Because this is important. 14 police officers were terminated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resigned under investigation. And then there's appeals. And you know what you do? You strip my funding. Are you going to pay the attorney all the money that I already owe them for the bad cops that the Civil Service Board, where we're going to be here tomorrow, and none of y'all going to be here. And y'all sitting here trying to deal off these people's emotions, and some of y'all the problem. Jen Rocker, you sit there, defund the police department's budget from a legal standpoint, and then come here because I don't have legal representation and I got to play lawyer to fight these bad actors. Let's talk facts. Let's talk facts. And then what you do? Then you go and you appoint people to the Civil Service Board that have direct ties to the union. There are 5 people on the Civil Service Board. What's wrong with good law-abiding citizens? You putting people on the Civil Service Board with direct ties to the union and wonder why they reverse the decisions that I make. I've been quiet, but I'm not going to be quiet no more.
Now, Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome also addressed the council, and she stated that the department still has a lot of work to do when it comes to maintaining the trust with the community.
So we have that Cheryl the Pearl. How you doing? Says the chief's business dealings with Mr. Coleman a conflict of interest. The chief's the business dealings don't have anything to do with Murphy Paul, or Paul Murphy, I should say. I call him Murphy Paul Murphy, whatever. No, that is what they were talking about is Myron Daniels and Lorenzo Coleman, who Lorenzo Coleman was the one who is the head of the Brave unit, the street crimes unit, excuse me. Myron Daniels is the deputy chief. And so Murphy Paul was also suit mentioned in this lawsuit, and that's because he is the he is the chief of police of the defendants. He's the one that is in charge of the police department. That's why the mayor selected him. And of course, the city named in this lawsuit is the city of Baton Rouge, the parish of East Baton Rouge. A lot of people don't know, but you can actually have a parish attorney and you have a city attorney. There's two different ones. Yes, that happens. So the city attorney and the Baton Rouge attorney would be the parish of East Baton Rouge would have their own attorneys, and they all would be representing the parish and city separately, respectively, in this lawsuit. The Baton Rouge Police Department is named as defendants in it. Murphy Paul, they've named them. And what they allege in the lawsuit is that Mrs. Brown, Tara Brown, getting back to the lawsuit, was sexually humiliated, obviously, and I dare say even assaulted, because if they did strip search her, they had to touch her. And I know this is very graphic, but they did obviously have to make contact with her to search her for what they thought was drugs. And she stated that she had prescriptions for this medication. They actually told her that it was illegal to have different prescription medicines in the same pill container. And the attorney, of course, is saying it's not. Now, let me clarify, it is illegal to possess, opioids or narcotics of some nature without a valid prescription. Yes, that is illegal. But to have it in a different container, not necessarily. Depends on whether or not you could verify she had a prescription for it. She said she had a proof that she had a prescription for it. And sometimes, and I know this, some people will actually put their pills, like for instance, you have a pill container. They put their pills Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They'll have that. And sometimes they will put whatever is left over, leave that in the remaining medication bottles. Or if they're traveling out of town and they forget, for instance, their pill container, they may grab, their pill container and put them in another prescription bottle. That happens. That does happen. But what they alleged here specifically, ladies and gentlemen, is that when Ms. Brown pleaded with the officers that she had a prescription for this, and I did see in the video, she said she could prove it. The officer said no. Now, they didn't finish the body camera footage. So they obviously, just from that inference, and I didn't see the rest of it, if just going off of it, they continue to detain her. And the officers, instead of viewing her prescriptions while she was on the scene, they informed her that, quote, a judge will sort it out. The officers told Mrs. Brown, "We don't know if it's something you bought off the streets or what." The officers then forcibly, without her consent, transported Mrs. Brown to the Brave Cave. The Brave Cave is an unmarked BRPD facility depicted below that was closed in September of 2023, which was last month, shortly after the reports of torture committed by members of the Street Crimes Unit became public. This is not a jail or a detention facility. No correctional staff work at the Brave Cave. Rather, it is a warehouse that the Street Crimes Unit has adopted as their home base over the past several years. It is a place where BRPD takes suspects to interrogate them, gather intelligence, and attempt to flip them to begin cooperating with the BRPD. The reason that the officers transported Mrs. Brown to the Brave Cave is because they suspected she might be involved in illegal drug activity. Mrs. Brown was a detainee who was being held while the officers investigated whether there was probable cause to arrest her for a drug offense. Mrs. Brown was held at the Brave Cave for over 2 hours. He made a little grammatical error there. The officers intentionally turned off their body-worn cameras at the Brave Cave, even though their investigation into Mrs. Brown was ongoing. Defendants Lawrence Wallace and an unknown female officer subjected Mrs. Brown to strip and body cavity searches. You already know what a body cavity and a strip search is, I believe, when a suspect disrobes. And of course, there's a search of internal body cavities, of their internal body cavities. I don't have to go into graphic detail. So they conducted these what I found this search, they found no drugs, they found no weapons, no contraband of any kind. And Mrs. Brown attempted to file a complaint in person at BRPD headquarters. She was told the officers had done nothing wrong and that her treatment was proper. So, BRPD's policies, now this is important, states in pertinent part, a strip search. Arrestees will not be subjected to strip searches unless the officer has articulate, reasonable suspicion that this particular arrestee may have weapons or contraband on his person. Reasonable suspicion will be based on the following factors: the nature of the offense charged, the arrestee's appearance and conduct, the circumstances of the arrest, the arrestee's prior record. Strip searches may be conducted on non-arrestees based on the individual articulable reasonable suspicion to frisk. Reasonable suspicion will be based on the same factors listed in paragraph 3A. So, and he goes in and cites some cases. Now, what Louisiana has, ladies and gentlemen, there is something, and I've shared this before, called stop and identify. What's going on, computer robots in CC? So, what we talk about stop and identify, now this is different than a search. Now, and by the way, I have to also clarify, this does not, I'm giving legal advice, but it does not create any type of attorney-client relationship. This is just my opinion and my opinion alone. You get what you can from it. So, when we do stop and identify, Louisiana is a stop and identify state where if the officer has reasonable suspicion to believe that a crime, that the criminal is up to no good or some type of criminal activity, and I shouldn't say criminal, but he suspects there is some type of criminal activity at foot, he can ask for your identification. In Louisiana, we are a stop and identify state. However, when you're talking about a search, that is more intrusive of an individual, and the Fourth Amendment applies. And so there is something where, especially a Terry stop, unfortunately, which allowed an officer to frisk an individual for weapons if he believed that he was about to commit a robbery, for instance, and he saw an L shape in his pants. They can ask to search you in circumstances like that. But here, they didn't find, and obviously they arrested her. You saw the body camera footage. I believe that was of Miss Brown. If that was her, I believe that was her from what we saw in the previous video. And searched for, she said she could have a prescription for him. They said no. And what they allege in this lawsuit is that they continued to search her and it went more intrusive into her buttocks, into her private cavities, her private areas. And right then and there, that is a Fourth Amendment, in my opinion, as a lawyer, Fourth Amendment violation, because if she is arrested, she is in handcuffed, she obviously can't go anywhere. She's detained. If you did a search outside her persons, that's one thing. You couldn't find it. If you strip searched her, you obviously didn't find any weapons. Even when you handcuffed her, you patted her down, you didn't find a weapon. So what was it allegedly that made you want to conduct a strip search on a 47-year-old woman, a grandmother at that? There was nothing there. On top of that, you took her to not a police, you didn't take her to the police department. You didn't take her to the sheriff, to a jail and booked her or charged her. You held her for 2 hours, which right then and there, that is not only a violation of Fourth Amendment. I could also say there's 14th Amendment violations, which clearly, under the color of law, no person shall be deprived their liberty, their freedom without the due process of law. No person shall not be deprived of that. So there's a 14th Amendment violation here. I know I'm misquoting the 14th Amendment, but the 14th Amendment is what gave Black people freedom, made them citizens, but it's been applied to use other things, I think, even in some instances wrongly, but it gives person equal protection under the law. And Due process of law, as you know, refers to that law of the land in each state which derives its authority from the inherent and reserved powers of the state, exerted within the limits of those fundamental principles of liberty and justice which lie at the base of all our civil and political institutions, and which and the greatest security for which resides in the rights of the people to make their own laws and alter them at their pleasure. That came from a Supreme Court case called Hurtado versus California. And you all, if you want, I'll give you citation so you can look at it, because I like to educate my people so you all can get that. That case is citation is right here. And I'm going to put it in the chat for you so you can take a look at it. But this essentially allows state governments, as distinguished from the federal government, to avoid using grand juries in criminal prosecutions. So due process doesn't necessarily require that. Basically, what that meant is it didn't necessarily require an indictment in that case by a grand jury and a prosecution by a state for murder. But that is the law we got from due process, and that was written in the majority decision by the Supreme Court. So we have a situation here, and of course, since this is filed in Middle District of Louisiana, I could the claims and damages that Mrs. Brown is arguing through her attorney, obviously, is her civil rights were violated, and the way that they sue the city is stating that by the police officers acting in their official capacity, meaning they were not acting as they were not acting as private individuals. They acted as officers under the law and at the discretion of the police department, because that is why they filed this suit, and they're trying to tie the city to it so the city can't wiggle out and say, well, they were off duty. They were not doing this. We don't sanction this. No, she was brought to a facility that obviously you had known about. I don't believe that Murphy Paul never knew about this, that this was happening under his nose, because I knew about it. I've heard of this unit. So do I honestly believe that he didn't know there was a Brave Cave? I can't. The attorney goes on and lists numerous times that Baton Rouge Police Department had been accused of illegal strip searches. He states that there has been approximately 1,000 individuals since January of 2023, including hundreds of individuals whose detention was based solely on reasonable suspicion of wrongdoing or less. Hundreds of these individuals, like Mrs. Brown, were released without formal arrest. So remember, and that's another thing too, Mrs. Brown was never charged with a crime. She was not under arrest at any time. She was wrong. So this was basically, in my opinion, a wrongful detainment. And for over 2 hours. That's something else a court would have to look at. Is that considered too long to detain someone based on suspicion that they had drugs? Now, I don't know, and the lawsuit didn't indicate what the stop was for, why she was stopped. I'd like to know exactly why Mrs. Brown was stopped by the police department. If this was a traffic because then if this was a traffic stop, then we know that this was way out of bounds then, because at what point does running a red light or even speeding get to the point where you have to be strip searched? This lawsuit, you can see Myron Daniels and Lorenzo Coleman. So we know what they look like. This is them here. I want to also remember Troy Lawrence Jr. Now, Troy Lawrence Jr. has been charged with battery. You saw in the police report. His own father, Troy Lawrence's father, is none other than Troy Lawrence Sr., who was the second in command of BRPD. And he has been placed on leave as a result of the FBI's investigation. The FBI, and that's another thing, what makes you know that this is bad is when the FBI even comes out and says it's true. They usually don't talk about an investigation, but they released this to the police chief and said, this is bad. And you know how and we know how the FBI has treated Black people in this country. So for them to come out and say it was bad and bring it to the chief of police attention, and he had to go over there, was problematic. Now, Troy Lawrence Sr. was placed on leave. Notice they always get placed on leave when they get in trouble with some shit.
6 o'clock, Baton Rouge Police Deputy Chief Troy Lawrence Sr. benched from his job today.
He was placed on administrative leave as the department and the feds investigate
Fair
allegations
use, by the way.
that
Fair
people were
use.
tortured inside a warehouse known as the Brave Cave. The investigative unit first to break the story about Lawrence's leave this morning. Chris Nakamoto spoke to the lawyer who brought all of this to light and has more on the implications.
Sylvia Michael, lawyer Ryan Thompson believes the decision to put Lawrence on leave today will have implications far and wide. As the investigation continues, sources are telling us more officers could be implicated in the wrongdoing.
When there 3 minutes, okay.
This unassuming white industrial shed-looking building is a warehouse where citizens in Baton Rouge allege their civil rights were violated.
So you just chill with them.
It all came to light a month ago when lawyer Ryan Thompson filed a lawsuit
State your name, first and last name.
alleging his client was tortured inside.
So we got no gun. I just got the. I don't care. How'd you get there?
Thompson says he's known since January what was going on there.
That type of systemic rot does not transpire, does not happen unless there are some individuals above you that are aware of it, whether it be a lieutenant, whether it be a sergeant, or even a deputy chief.
Bro, you kicked my unit again. Flash out. Flash out. I want you to.
The fallout was fast. The street crimes unit that used the facility was disbanded. 2 officers were placed on leave as investigations commenced. 1 week ago, Troy Lawrence Jr., the son of the deputy chief, was arrested, accused of tasing a handcuffed subject. Wednesday morning, his father, Deputy Chief Troy Lawrence Sr., was also placed on leave. Lawrence Sr. used to be the commander of the street crimes unit and has been with BRPD for more than 26 years. Knowing that he used to be the commander of the street crimes unit, what message does this send to the rest of the department?
That any type of malfeasance, criminal activity, no matter how minor, and when I say minor, I mean from an administrative level. Obviously, the deputy chief is not on the ground, so he's not physically touching anyone. But from an administrative level, the message that it sends that even if you are involved in administrative level of criminal activity, you will be found out.
Following the allegations coming to light, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul said he personally went to the FBI, asking for them to investigate. In a rare move, the FBI confirmed days ago that the FBI, the Civil Rights Division, and the U.S. Attorney's Office all opened a federal investigation into allegations that members of the department abused their authority.
Do you think that Troy Lawrence Sr. was aware of what was going on in that Brave Cave?
I would suspect that if that's your son and you have a close relationship with your son, I would suspect that there is some type of mentorship going on. Obviously, that is your son. So I think to some level or degree, he likely knew or should have known what was going on. It's also not remiss upon me that he was also in that unit at one time.
Tonight, Thompson says for his clients, he's hoping justice is swift and wants to see the same rules that apply to the public apply to law enforcement officers who get in trouble.
If there's a crime that is committed and an officer investigates that crime and there's probable cause to be found, they are arrested right then and there. And so what we've always wanted from the beginning is not just to have someone arrested. We wanted the right thing done. And if there was evidence of a crime and probable cause was met, we wanted them to be going through the same process as anyone else.
Deputy Chief Troy Lawrence is being paid while he's on leave. Sources confirmed to the investigative unit that his leave is a result of the ongoing criminal and administrative investigations involving the street crimes unit. Meanwhile, the Baton Rouge Police Union issued a statement saying they are disheartened and dismayed. You can read the entire statement on WBRZ.
Oh, this I got to see. They're disheartened and dismayed. You know, usually these unions, whenever there's a crime, whenever the officer is accused of something, they will always try and defend that officer no matter what. Whenever there's an officer involved shooting, they always say it's justified. So they're saying they are heartbroken by it. I got to read it. What are they going to do about it, though, is the even bigger question. So when we look at this, and I'm about to wrap it up in a minute. Because then, so they said they're disheartened and dismayed for placing up. There we go. They're disheartened and dismayed for placing the Union of Police on leave, deputy chief on leave. So here we go. They say the recent action taken against Deputy Chief Troy Lawrence, placing him on administrative leave, has the membership of the BR Union of Police, I got to abbreviate, both disheartened and dismayed. Why? When faced with current allegations about the so-called Brave Cave and the Street Crimes Unit, has the administration chosen to take action on an allegation that is more than 3 years old? An allegation where evidence and witnesses may be hard to come by due to the time that has passed since this incident is alleged to have occurred. It's not old. Actually, we saw from the body camera footage the gentleman who was being detained there. That was in earlier this January of 2023. So it's not old. An allegation that by its very nature damages the reputation of an officer with more than 20 years of dedicated and meritorious service to BRPD and the citizens of Baton Rouge. And why are the details behind the charges so hard to come by? The administration likes to use the term transparency as a touchstone for the way they choose to conduct themselves. If there were actual transparency in this case, the charges would be made public as would the evidence and those bringing it. And there would be an explanation as to why this allegation took more than 3 years to come to light if the administration felt there was an actionable offense. The Baton Rouge Union of Police has always stood for a full and fair account of any incidents or allegations made against our fellow officers. We have also always called for a fair and complete investigation where warranted under the full light of day. The Brave Cave unit, sir, has been going on. So the allegations, even if it started from 2020, his son was still tied to this incident that happened in 2023. So it is not old. It is not old. And here was the article here. I'm sorry, I thought you all could see it when I clicked on it. But what say you all? This is what we have to, people, this is what we're dealing with. This is not just in Baton Rouge, but ladies and gentlemen, this has been going on in every major city you can think of. I don't care if you live in New York, New Orleans. I don't care if you live in New York, New Orleans, Chicago, Los Angeles. Remember when Los Angeles, they had the Rough Riders, the Rampart scandal that was going on? Even recently, a couple of years ago, I remember the sheriff's department out in Los Angeles, they got in trouble because they found out they had freaking gang members that were members of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Y'all remember that story? So this should come as no surprise to anybody why this stuff goes on. I'm going to leave the link, ladies and gentlemen, to this lawsuit that you can find here. I'm about to wrap this up. But you all hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you love this channel. Also, I got to ask. I'm not asking you all for I'm not begging for a donation, but I'm worth my time. And if you believe I'm worth my time, then pay me for my time, ladies and gentlemen. Drop something off in the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. As you know, the channel is not monetized. Anything you can support is great. You can donate is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your support, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna wrap this up in a little bit. And we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, Danielle says bullshit. Apple doesn't fall from the tree. Fall from the tree. No. Cece, shout out to you. Cheryl the Pearl. Yeah, computer robots. All right, we're gonna wrap this up, y'all. Hopefully, you all will have a great week. For those of you who are off tomorrow, enjoy the day off. Those that aren't, good working to you. Hopefully, the day goes by quick. All right, y'all. Yeah, we're gonna keep monitoring this story because Baton Rouge is like I said, a second home to me. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna investigate this. But this story, we're gonna keep our foot on the gas with it. All right, y'all be safe, and be blessed, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, you can also purchase The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr. on Amazon Kindle. That's a great way to support. But I got to get on up in Video Soul on iTunes. By the way, I got another song that's coming out. I'm going to share with y'all very soon. So you all be safe, and be blessed, y'all. We out of here. Thank you all for tuning in. Peace out, family.